All right, welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're going to dig into a question that probably bugs a lot of us. Why does economic theory, the stuff they teach in school, so often seem to just fall apart when you look at the real world?
I mean, think about it. We're all taught these basic economic rules, these so-called laws. But then you look around at how people actually behave, the choices we all make every day, and a lot of it just doesn't seem to fit the models.
Okay, so here's rule number one they teach you. When the price of something goes up, demand for it should go down. Makes sense, right? But then you get this, a $500 t-shirt from Balenciaga. According to the rulebook, nobody should be buying this. And yet, for some people, that crazy high price is exactly why they want it. The theory is completely backwards here. What is going on?
And it gets even stranger. Another classic idea is diminishing utility. The more you have of something, the less you want the next one. But imagine you're dying to go to a concert with your best friend. You score one ticket. Is a second ticket now less valuable to you? No way. That second ticket might be the most valuable thing on the planet in that moment, because without it, the first ticket is kind of useless. The neat little formulas just can't explain this stuff.
So what gives? Well, the answer isn't buried in some ridiculously complicated spreadsheet. It's actually found in one single, incredibly powerful idea about why we do what we do. It's the key that unlocks the whole thing.
It's a fancy word, praxeology, and it's the absolute core of the Austrian school of economics. But don't let the name scare you. It's not about math, it's about logic. And it all stems from one simple truth that you can't really argue with, a truth about every single one of us.
And here it is. Every conscious thing we do on purpose. We are always acting to make our situation better, or at the very least, to stop it from getting worse. Even when you feel like you have no choice, like say your boss makes you work on a weekend, you are still making a choice. You're choosing to work because the alternative, getting fired, is a much worse situation. The action is still purposeful.
Sometimes that purpose is super immediate, right? I'm hungry, so you act, you buy a burger. Goal, improve my state right now by not being hungry anymore. Simple.
But then there's the other side of the coin. Think about forcing yourself to go to the gym. In that moment, it's not fun. You're tired, you're sore, your immediate state is arguably worse. But you are consciously choosing that short-term pain because you're aiming for a much bigger, future reward, being healthier. You're still acting to improve your state. You're just playing the long game. All right, so we've got this one simple rule. All human action is purposeful. But how does that one idea explain the whole complex world of economics? Well, it all flows from one massive, unchangeable fact of life.
And that fact is scarcity. We just don't have enough of anything, time, money, energy, to do everything we want. You just can't have it all. And that means every single choice we make comes with a cost. The opportunity cost. As the source material puts it, if you choose the blonde, you're giving up the brunette. Every yes is also a no to everything else.
Let's make this super concrete. Imagine you've got $100. You could buy new jeans, or you could buy new sneakers. You're weighing your options. But then, new information arrives. It starts pouring down rain, and you realize your current shoes are full of holes. All of a sudden, the value you place on dry feet skyrockets. The sneakers aren't just an option anymore, they're a necessity. Value isn't in the thing, it's in your head at that exact moment, based on your goals.
This even flips how we think about the famous marshmallow test. We see a kid who eats the one marshmallow right away, and we think, poor impulse control, irrational. But what if that kid is being perfectly logical? What if they've grown up in a world where promises are often broken? Their experience has taught them that a marshmallow in the hand is worth two that might never show up. They aren't being irrational. They're making a calculated choice based on their own unique reality.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. Let's take this same exact logic, this idea of individual subjective choice, and scale it up. Let's apply it not just to one person, but to a whole country.
And there's this fantastic story that makes the point perfectly. Picture this, it's the 1980s. A high-ranking Soviet official is visiting London, and he's just stunned by what he sees. The shops are full, there's food everywhere. It's an abundance he just can't comprehend.
So he turns to his British guides and asks the question that from his world of central planning makes perfect sense. He asks, who is in charge of supplying the city of London with bread? He's looking for the name of the government department, the head of the bread ministry.
And the answer he got was just no one. It's mind-blowing, right? There was no grand plan. There was no central committee. The bread just
showed up. It was the result of thousands of individual bakers, farmers, truck drivers, and shopkeepers all acting in their own self-interest, trying to improve their own state. And the result was a system that worked better than any plan could.
Now, for that magic to happen, for this spontaneous order to work, you need a few key ingredients. You need private property rights, so people actually own the things they make and trade. You need free, voluntary exchange, so they can act on their choices. And, crucially, you need real price signals. Prices aren't just numbers. They are tiny, condensed packets of information about how much something is wanted and how scarce it is.
So, from this viewpoint, when essential authority steps in, even with the best intentions, it's like throwing a wrench in the gears of that information system. The logic follows that if you set a price control to make bread affordable, you're actually destroying the very signal that tells bakers to produce more bread, which ultimately leads to shortages. The argument is that these interventions, no matter how well-meaning, end up distorting reality.
Okay, we're almost there. We've seen how individual choices create a complex order. Now let's look at the last two big pieces of this puzzle: the tool we use for all these choices, money, and the hidden engine that actually drives all of society forward, savings.
We usually think of money as just a neutral medium of exchange, kind of like a measuring stick. But this way of thinking says, hold on, not so fast. It argues that where new money enters the economy is hugely important. This is an idea known as the Cantillon Effect.
So here's how it plays out. Step 1. A central bank creates new money. But here's the kicker. It doesn't just rain down on everyone equally. It gets injected into the system through, say, large financial institutions. They get the new money first, and they get to spend it while prices are still low. But as that new money flows through the economy, from person to person, it bids up prices along the way. By the time it trickles down to the average person, prices have already gone up. And this brings us full circle, right back to that marshmallow. Think of society as a whole taking the test. A low-saving society has a high time preference. It always wants the marshmallow now. It focuses on immediate needs, simple production. But a high-saving society is willing to wait for 2 marshmallows. It delays gratification. That saved-up capital is what allows for the big, complex, long-term projects that create real progress. Building factories, inventing rockets, developing life-saving technology. So what's the big idea here? What does all this add up to? The core argument is this: the most powerful, creative, and productive form of human cooperation isn't something designed by a committee. It emerges from the ground up when millions of people are simply free to pursue their own goals through voluntary exchange. And that leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. If it's true that every human action is a purposeful choice to make things better, then what kind of world are we actually choosing to build when we put limits on the freedom to make those choices and exchanges? Thanks for joining this explainer.